Namaste. Just to share a few ideas regarding the relevance of the state of vignana that Thakur explains. Sri Ramakrishna talks about the state of vignana in the Gospel or the Kathamrita or Vachanamrita. But he also says that only Ishvara Kotis or avatars can attain to a state of vignani. So, why talk about it, or what is the relevance in our lives of this state? So the answer lies in the statement, the last message by Sri Sri Ma, Holy Mother, and also in the main message of Sri Ramakrishna that inspired Swami Vivekananda to start the Ramakrishna order. So when we connect these dots, we get a clearer picture of why Sri Ramakrishna even bothered to talk about this state, which is not attainable by ordinary jivas. So just a quick introduction to the state of vignani. Sri Ramakrishna says it is a state beyond even nirvikalpa samadhi. An ordinary jiva at most can, by his sadhana and divine grace, attain to the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, and he cannot come back. He cannot return to this ordinary mortal plane. But an Ishvara Koti or an avatara can return back even after attaining nirvikalpa samadhi. And then he has a different perspective or a different attitude towards the world. And he perceives the world in a different way. Normal Advaita Vedantists would tell you that this world is a framework of illusion or delusion. And even Sri Ramakrishna emphasizes the need to do neti neti, or renouncing the unreal, in our sadhana stage of life. So in spiritual life, if we have to renounce the world, perceiving it as illusion, or even recognizing it, or even just understanding it intellectually as an illusion or as something which is an obstacle in the path to our God realization, then why should we even consider that state beyond nirvikalpa samadhi? If we analyze the last message of Holy Mother, Sri Sri Ma, she says, "No one is a stranger, my child. Make the whole world your very own. Do not find fault with anybody." This seemingly simple statement is the last word in spiritual life, even for an avatar. So, if we do not have this vignani state, we do not have any explanation for, or we do not know how to reconcile this when we think that during the state of sadhana, during the stage of as a spiritual aspirant, we are told to renounce the world and renounce all attachments. Even Sri Ramakrishna says that the relatives will feel like they are cobras, the attiya, the relatives in Bangla they call attiya. They'll feel like they are venomous snakes. And here Holy Mother is telling that make the whole world your very own. And then let's look at Swamiji. When he heard the message, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva, Thakur was explaining that Vaishnavas, the tenets, which includes daya, compassion. So Sri Ramakrishna says, who are you, a jiva, to show compassion to others? So it's not daya, but seva. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. Knowing that the one in front of you is Shiva, the very Lord himself. You have to serve them, not show compassion, standing on a high pedestal. Even this, as well as Holy Mother's statement, can be understood only when we see or we learn about this state beyond nirvikalpa samadhi where the avatara or the Ishvara Koti realizes after Samadhi, when he comes back, that the very world which was earlier rejected as an illusion is verily God himself. That God alone is, nothing else exists. So when someone comes to that realization, for an aspirant, that becomes a sadhana. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva is possible only if you have the ideal of vignani in the background. Else this whole world is to be rejected, right? I'll attain my nirvikalpa samadhi, I don't care about the world. So how can I even consider this way, that is Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva, as a path towards God realization? And that is the very motto of Ramakrishna Mutt. The Ramakrishna order, the motto is Atmano Mokshartham Jagat Hitaya. So why bother about Jagat Hitaya at all? Go to a cave, meditate, and leave the body, right? So all this, that's why even some of the traditional monasteries, even these days, they are finding it difficult to accept this Ramakrishna order of monks way of life, that you stay in the society, engage in various activities which seemingly are bound to cause attachments, but they don't realize that the Swamiji meant all these activities to be taken as sadhana, puja, worship. We're worshipping the divine. That is the attitude with which we are supposed to do all our activities. And this vignana, the state of vignana or the ideal of vignana, gives the basis for this kind of a new method of worship or new method of spiritual practice, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. So this state of vignani explains why it is so that we can attain God realization by serving your fellow beings. Why? Because ultimately the entire world, whatever you see, there nothing else exists but God. So this realization of the vignani, that once you reach the terrace and when you come back, you see that the stairs are made up of the same material as the terrace. This experience of the avatara or the Ishvara Koti helps us have the Shraddha in the spiritual practice of Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. It's not some imaginary self-affirmation that, okay, there might be God there, and so I will assume that the person in front of me is God and then I will progress. No, it's not like that. It's proven by vignani that yes, whom you are considering, it's not an imagination, it is the realization of the avatara, which is the spiritual practice for us. Shankaracharya Bhagavan says in Gita Bhashya, while explaining Sthita Prajna Lakshana, I guess, he says, why is Bhagavan explaining the state of Sthita Prajna to us? Because what is the habit or what is the very nature of a Sthita Prajna can be a mode of practice for us. So same thing is applicable here. So we can connect the dots. Mother saying the whole world, no one is a stranger. Why? Because God alone exists. Whatever you see, you may see the difference, but ultimately it's God alone. Nothing else exists. Same with Swamiji's Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva's implementation as Atmano Mokshartham Jagat Hitaya. So everything stands explained when we take this vignani state into consideration. So that's all I wanted to share with you all. Namaste.